time, I'll call the Local Agency Formation Commission to order Monday, October 7th. Roll call.
Commissioner Vanderlyn,
Present.
Commissioner Jacob,
Here.
Commissioner Kersey,
Here.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Here.
Commissioner Willis,
Here.
Commissioner Salas, absent. Commissioner Wells,
Here.
Commissioner Desmond,
Here.
Commissioner Kate is absent. Commissioner Cox is absent. Commissioner McNamara,
Here.
Commissioner Lump, here. Commissioner Mathis. There's
Chair, Commissioner Salas is expected to be here, but in her absence, certainly Commissioner McNamara will vote as the city member, along with Mayor Wells. No, two city members.
Right.
With Mayor Salas, Commissioner McNamara will vote.
At this time, please stand for the pledge. Commissioner Jacob. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd like to introduce our newest alternate member. It's Mayor Paul McNamara from the city of Escondido. Paul, welcome. You want to say a few words?
I was told that I need to say a couple of things. Hi, I'm Paul McNamara, and I'm the mayor of Escondido. I've lived there a little over 21 years. I came to San Diego. I was a colonel in the Marine Corps. We got assigned to Miramar. I was coming from Mexico City, and just to be honest with you, I stumbled on Escondido. But now I want my ashes spread over the backyard since I put so much work into it. So, I've really fallen in. I was stationed up in Orange County. I used to come down to San Diego, and I had a bunch of Navy friends down here, and I said, oh man, what a beautiful area, but I'll never live here. And then sure enough, life took me here as they closed the Orange County bases. So anyway, I'm got involved in politics a little bit, and here I am as the mayor, and I'm really happy to be here on the LAFCO board. And I've really, working at Sandag, I've really enjoyed working with all the elected officials and the staff who are trying to help the common good. It's really kind of great when you get in a meeting, the partisan politics go away, and people are looking what's best for the area. So, anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Okay. At this time, item number 4 is a review of the agenda. City agenda.
Thank you, Chair. There are no changes per se to the agenda, but I did just want to make an upfront comment that when the Commission gets to agenda item 7A, that's the San Marcos Highlands reorganization proposal, we are going to be recommending a continuance. We can dive a little further into the why when we get to it. So other than that one telegraphic comment, we are good with the agenda.
Okay. Any changes from the Commission?
I just have a question. I'm always skeptical when I get piles of paperwork at the dais the day of. And so I'm just curious, I see you got 7A, 7B, 8A, and the memorandum. Can you give me a synopsis of what's in these?
So,
I had to read them.
thank you, Commissioner Desmond. So all of the correspondence, other than the one memorandum that you have, is materials that we previously provided to the Commission, both in email and by way of the website. It's just correspondence that came in after we posted the agenda about 2 weeks ago. The one substantive change, all of you will have a memorandum from me on 7B. This is new. We did not have a chance to provide this to you before the meeting. I will cover it as part of the presentation when we get to 7B.
Okay, thank you. It's just,
And I understand that.
it's overwhelming, and it's like, I have to know what's here before I vote on it. I'd like to do that as opposed to.
So that's why I asked that everything coming in that we got as soon as it came in, so that we didn't have it at 5 o'clock, because some people don't have staff at 5 o'clock on a Friday.
Okay,
So
thank you.
hopefully you had a couple days to read it.
Okay. Moving on along. Public comment time. I have 3 people who would like to speak under public comment. Rodney Smith, Jack Eby, Claire Collins, and that's under public comment. Public comment is reserved for those who'd like to address the commission on any item that is not on the agenda. Do you have information that is not on the agenda, or do you want to speak under item 8A?
Jack Eby's 8A.
Rodney Smith.
Rodney Smith, 8A.
Okay. Clerk on share. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that before I skipped over everybody. Item number 6 is the consent calendar. Is there any item that Commissioner would like to pull for further discussion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. Roll call.
Commissioner Vanderham,
Yes.
Commissioner Jacobs,
Aye.
Commissioner Kersey,
Aye.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Aye.
Commissioner Willis,
Aye.
Commissioner Salas,
Aye.
Commissioner Wells,
Yes.
Commissioner Desmond,
Yes.
the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Item number 7 is our public hearings, and item A is the proposed San Marcos Highlands reorganization and concurrent annexations to the city of San Marcos and special districts and detachments. Yeah. Do you have a staff report?
Well, an abbreviated staff report at that. So as I made reference to earlier, staff is recommending that the commission approve a request that we received from the applicant to continue this item on to our next meeting on November 4th. You have a copy of that request into Commissioner Desmond's comment, along with some other correspondence that you received on 7A in the packet on the dais before you. And just for the benefit of a little additional comment, staff did get the word out late last week when we received the request to all of the interested parties, and that includes a number of people in the surrounding neighborhood in the Twin Oaks community. We have the applicant and his representatives here in attendance today in case there are any questions, but our staff recommendation is to continue it with the one request from council that if there's anyone here in the public who would like to speak on the continuance, you do that before you take action. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any other speaker slips other than the applicant. Jim Simmons? Hate for you to drive all the way down and not be at the top.
I slept down here last night. My name is Jim Simmons, 160 Industrial Street, San Marcos. I do represent the applicant, and we have some unfinished business in the county that we have to take care of on the 16th. Hopefully, we will do that, and be ready to come forward to this board on the 4th of November. So we would appreciate it if you would allow us the time to get that business taken care of. And we'll be back to see you in November. We'll sleep there again that night.
Thank you. Any comments from the commissioner?
Madam Chair, just a couple. I don't have a problem with the continuance. The Board of Supervisors did consider it was an environmental agreement that was associated with this project, and it was a tie vote 2-2. At that meeting, though, I did highlight some concerns with jurisdictional shopping. This is an example of that. So I think it might be a good idea for LAFCO to take a look at our policy in regards to jurisdictional shopping and see if they need to be updated. You know, along those lines, the county staff had provided extensive environmental documents that I also believe our staff should take a look at, because I do believe that we're going to have to make an environmental determination when this issue comes to LAFCO. So I would move the continuance, request that staff take a look at our policy in regards to jurisdictional shopping, and then also direct our staff to review the environmental documents that were provided by county staff during this process on this project.
Just one quick question, does it have to do with any endangered species, or what's the environmental aspect?
The county submitted comments, pretty extensive comments on the environmental. All I'm asking for is not to discuss it today, but to have our LAFCO staff to review those comments when it comes back to LAFCO. I do believe that's something we have to consider.
I'll follow up with a question on that. Is that this board's, or this entity's job?
So we will certainly bring, as part of our analysis and recommendation, the CEQA evaluation as part of the report, but to Commissioner Desmond's comment, Commissioner Jacobs' comment, we can provide expanded discussion about our policies that apply to it. Perhaps they were lacked in the initial staff report, but we will bring that back to you on November 4th if and go forward with anything else.
Okay.
Any other questions from the commission? Is there a motion?
I did make one.
Second that motion.
That was fast. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Commissioner Vanderman,
Yes.
Commissioner Jacobs,
Aye.
Commissioner Kersey,
Aye.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Aye.
Commissioner Willis,
Aye.
Commissioner Salas,
Aye.
Commissioner Wells,
Yes.
Commissioner Desmond.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We have item 7B is the public hearing for the final report and related actions on the municipal service review of the Escondido Region Part 1. Staff report?
Thank you, Chair. So I'm going to start this item off before I hand over the core of the presentation to Alex. And my comments really serve as a reminder for the benefit of our audience, and that is what is before the Commission today in final form is the first of two distinct phases, or parts as we're referring to it, with respect to our scheduled municipal service review on the Escondido region. The municipal service review that is part of our adopted board plan and certainly ties back into this overall prompt for this commission by way of the legislature to prepare your own independent check-ins on the adequacy and availability of local governmental services relative to community needs as you see it. And there are these three particular outcomes that I think are important anytime we bring you municipal service reviews that are on the Commission's radar and certainly on the public's radar, and they really serve as thresholds for you to decide, Commission, has staff hit the mark? Have we prepared a document that you believe is complete, if you will? And first and foremost, you use these documents, these municipal service reviews, to inform your other tasks, related tasks under statute, to perform sphere updates for all cities and special districts in San Diego County every 5 years, right? So that's the first line of sight and purpose of the service review. You also, and certainly this LAFCO has done this quite a bit, you use the service review to signal out loud possible jurisdictional changes that you would like to see discussed among the affected agencies, and perhaps, when the time is right, to come back to you in the form of proposals. Germane examples, just about every fire reorganization you have done over the last 10 years ties back to an earlier municipal service review. And then third and finally, the last outcome that is on our mind when we prepare these documents is, if you feel strongly enough about a particular topic, under statute, this is the vehicle for you to be your own applicant. You can initiate your own reorganization specific to forming, consolidating, and dissolving special districts. So that's the context to the document before you. Now specifically, part one, again, that's the item before you, is our take, our independent take on two of the three agencies in the Escondido region. You have Deer Springs Fire Protection District, and you have Rincon del Diablo Municipal Water District. The third and final agency, okay, is going to get picked up in part two. That's the city of Escondido. And we would assume that that document is going to make its way to the dais certainly before the end of the calendar. But today is about your duty to do a service review on Rincon and Deer Springs Fire Protection District. Now, that's the context. Alex is going to highlight the key conclusions and recommendations of the final report. Most of it you've already heard and discussed at some length back in August. There's a couple of changes that Alex will talk about. And then there's a few more late revisions, and this goes to Commissioner Desmond's earlier comment. I've prepared a memorandum that all of you have, and I know there's copies out on the table for the audience. We have a couple of late revisions we'd also like to incorporate. I will go over those when Alex is done, and they're in response to a letter we got from the city of Escondido late last week. So with that, I'm going to ask Alex to walk us through the final report.
Thank you, Keith. For those that aren't familiar, I just want to give a quick rundown on the region here for the two agencies that are being discussed in addition to the city of Escondido. And you can see on the map Deer Springs, their spear in the red and white stripes. City of Escondido underneath most of Rincon del Diablo's spear there in the gray and blue and white stripes, just to emphasize the overlap, particularly between Rincon and the city of Escondido. You can see the dark shaded area, dark gray, blue stripes, that's where a lot of the overlap is going to occur, and that does occur in approximately 63% of Rincon's sphere, or service area, overlaps with the city of Escondido. So I want to also emphasize that this report returns mostly intact from the draft presented in August, and these are the 7 highlighted themes that we were able to draw out of the report. Everything checks out fiscally and service-wise with the agencies. The remainder of the conclusions and themes surround the development in the unincorporated areas in the region and the need to align services, the need to align boundaries with services and smaller pockets as they develop and will be in need of services in the future. So we're using this data and these themes to inform following sphere updates. This is the list of the 9 policy recommendations that we were able to come up with as part of the draft, and this is the slide that was presented in the draft. It says draft on top, of course, and I will discuss some of the changes made to these recommendations. But in particular, 4 of the more noteworthy recommendations we can see here are numbers 5 through 8, and they pertain to Deer Springs extending their relationship with County Fire as County Fire evolves in unincorporated areas of the Escondido region. The need for wastewater responsibilities to be conveyed to developing areas, in particular Harmony Grove, and LAFCO to undertake studies to determine who will be the most ready provider in those areas. Number 8, to sort of do the same thing with wastewater and water services. Rincon, and number 7 in particular, for LAFCO to prepare a study to inform the options for sphere updates going forward as it pertains to the overlap between Rincon and Escondido. And that was one of the more noteworthy changes that were made following issuance of public comment and the intake of public comment from Rincon and Deer Springs as well. So I'll show some of the changes that we've made here to the recommendations. Number 5, recommendation number 5 is really just an extension of the existing recommendation to for Deer Springs to continue to expand and evolve their relationship with County Fire as County Fire grows in unincorporated areas of the county. Also, Deer Springs, number 10, this was in addition to the recommendations that was made after some discussions with officials and with Deer Springs, that we think it would be appropriate for discussions to continue going forward as it pertains to auto aid agreements and the surrounding agencies, and for those discussions to inform sphere updates in the future. Number 7, as it pertains to Rincon, an important change to the recommendation was the removal of a reference to the creation of a subsidiary district as an outcome of the addendum that we believe should be prepared and undertaken. We do believe that it is appropriate to take out the reference to the creation of a subsidiary district with the understanding that we erroneously may have been presupposing the outcomes of the addendum, and believe it is more appropriate just to state that we believe an addendum should be prepared and the overlap between the two jurisdictions should be assessed. We also, King will touch on this, removed, as you can see here, the strike through of number 3, following public comment received from the City of Escondido. We removed that recommendation after gaining insight that there is some more clarity on the fire response standards and expectations, and everything's good there. Which will be some of them. I think that's all I have.
Thank you, Alex. So just to double down on 2 comments. The first is, again, all of you have this memorandum before you. It's in response to a letter we received last Friday, or just last Friday, from the City of Escondido. The City of Escondido has proposed 5 specific revisions to the document. We agree and have consulted with RENCON that 4 revisions are appropriate as part of this document. The majority are rather minute and are just kind of rewording. The one substantive issue Alex already addressed, and that is based on what we have learned in the process, the earlier recommendation that RENCON establish its own fire response measurements. I think there's sufficient clarity that that is already occurring without needing to be a formal take on LAFCO. Both the city and RENCON attest that they have synced up their policies and procedures with respect to this activity, so no need for LAFCO to weigh in on it. The other changes, again, are kind of word choices. We don't have any qualms with them. RENCON, as the effective entity on this document, didn't have any qualms, so I would characterize these as rather minor, but still value to bring into the final report. So what we would ask is, as we consider our recommendation, which is twofold, that you approve the, you accept the final report that your staff has prepared, and then you separately adopt a draft resolution prepared, that you incorporate the track changes that are reflected in this memorandum. And again, other than that one change that Alex highlighted about taking out the recommendation for RENCON to adopt its own fire response standards, I would attest, Commission, these are rather minor, but we wanted to get them into the record today. So with that, I know we have representatives from the affected agencies, specifically RENCON and Deer Springs. We also have a member of the City of Escondido in attendance. I'm sure they may want to comment on the document. And I do want to extend our appreciation to all 3 agencies and their staff for allowing us to get this document to you in rather quick form, which meant a lot of work on their end to respond to some questions. So this is a public hearing. Be happy to take questions when you see fit.
I'll have the commissioner. Are there any questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Desmond.
Thanks. And Keen, I appreciate the fact that you say these are minor changes. So can you give us like a 1 or 2 sentence on each of the changes?
Absolutely.
Because I trust you, but I gotta verify.
As we verify. So, and perhaps the easiest thing would be to look at the very last page in your
I guess I'm
memorandum.
concerned on the
Yeah,
memorandum.
so you all have a letter from the City of Escondido. They outline 5 specific requests for changes. And in order, the first requested change, which we are agreeing to, simply illuminates that LAFCO's existing determination and recommendation for RENCON to get further into the business of recycled water. We are clarifying that that the ideal partnership, the priority partnership, is with the City of Escondido. That's it for the first change on item 1. Second item is a request that from Escondido that we relook at our issue or comment about RENCON adopting its own standards for fire protection. This is what generated a whole lot of discussion over the last 24 hours. The staff concluding, hey, let's just get out of the recommendation. It sounds like both Rincon and Escondido are in agreement that the policies and procedures are already in place that adequately say whatever the standards are for the city of Escondido, they apply to the Rincon service area. So we have struck that entire determination out. With respect to the third change, Escondido asked for a clarification in a determination where we had said all is well with the Rincon water system, that we just make sure and specify that a portion of their water system, which they refer to as IDA, is dependent and there's a relationship to the Escondido water system. It's a technical change, but we incorporated it. And then the last and final change we made to this document in response to the Escondido letter deals with number 4. Now, number 4 is a substantive issue. Escondido has raised questions about a 1999 agreement that underlies recycled water provision in which the city hands over supplies to Rincon. We see these comments being rather substantive, so we have just taken the low fruit on this and said, hey, we're just going to acknowledge the agreement should be revisited for both agencies' benefit. We have not weighed in on any other topic in this letter on that issue. And on number 5, the final thing Escondido asked us to look at was a fire study. We're saying, hey, that's a good idea. We're not going to weigh into it until part 2. So we didn't make any changes with respect to part 5 or comment 5.
Okay, so just back to the very first one on the recycled water, you're saying Rincon, could you repeat that, I guess, on the first one?
So our existing statement in the report was a recommendation that Rincon expand its supplies of recycled water. The comment from Escondido has prompted us to amend that statement to say, and the priority and the preference is that they partner with the city of Escondido in that pursuit.
Oh, that they partner with the
Yes.
city? Okay, thank you.
And again, it came in late, but because we think they add value to the report, we've come forward with the recommended revisions.
Okay, I'm fine. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Yes.
Robert, on item 5, it says expand contract relationship with county fire. Could you elaborate on that, please, during training?
Absolutely. So the context is when Deer Springs Fire Protection District went about its decision to contract out for fire services with CAL FIRE. That's the baseline right now. County Fire Authority did not exist. Fire Authority has evolved into a more brick-and-mortar operation. So our comment, and this is consistent with earlier municipal service reviews, is as County Fire Authority has evolved, perhaps the relationship with Deer Springs Fire Protection District can evolve too. It's an open-ended comment, but it syncs up these two interests that LAFCO has, which is to economize fire protection services in the unincorporated area, and in absence of a better alternative, look to the fire authority as that service provider as needed.
I guess what I was asking, in terms of expanding contract relationship, does that mean additional area annexation? Or?
No, it's a service arrangement.
Any other questions, Mr. Commissioner? Other questions from Walter? Erin?
I do want to make a couple notes on the additional material that we received from the city of Escondido, the 7B that we just went over. A couple of the things that we talked about is that Escondido should be Rincon's primary partner in the recycle. We are, and it is mutually beneficial. We even let them use one of our tanks recently, actually a couple times this year already during the wet season, so that they wouldn't be fined for overflow of their recycled water into the stream, more or less. So we pull our weight on that relationship too, and we continue to work together. And then on the 1999 agreement, Rincon did do a good job negotiating that at the time, and we've been getting a good rate for recycled water. The city of Escondido hasn't come to us and asked to renegotiate that. So it's kind of fun when these things come up and they just throw it out to LAFCO. I invite them to come and work with our staff. We've been more than willing to negotiate and talk on anything that would benefit the ratepayers. And then the last thing, which we're not necessarily including in the MSR, would be that we do a fire study, cost of fire. We've done it several times with the city of Escondido, and they've been involved. Our most recent one was just at the end of 2016. It was filed in December. It went to the city council for their review. I'm the chair of the fire commission. We worked closely with Chief Voigt, and we went through it, and the takeaway was it would have to go to a vote of the people in order to increase those property taxes. Do we think that can happen? That's why they are at the rate that they're at. And so we've continued to have open communications between Rincon and the city of Escondido, and I just want to make that clear to the commission that we're definitely transparent and willing to work to the benefit of our constituents.
Are there any other questions on the side? Did I hear someone wanting to? No? Okay. At this time, I'll open the public hearing. I see a lot of people in the audience, both from Rincon and the city of Escondido, but I have no speaker slips. Do any of you wish to address the commission with any comments? No? Okay. I will close the public hearing then. Is there a motion?
So moved.
A motion?
I'll set, yeah. Well,
I did a motion.
I have a motion from Bill. And
You want to curse? I'll second it, okay. But I do have a question, Alex, could you pull up, and I didn't, the PowerPoint, like the first page or whatever, the PowerPoint, the one that had the overlay map? I didn't see that in the iPad or any of the materials that were handed out, so.
It's a recent creation.
Yeah,
I think it would be beneficial.
you usually click through these faster than I can absorb them. So, just, real quick again, just go through the colors for me one more time.
Sure.
Because it's kind of blue there.
I understand. I think the thing to note is the overlap between Rincon and the city of Escondido there. So you can see that where there's just
Pretend I've never seen
I'll
this.
use the map. They're trying to make it as understandable as possible. So where there is just white with the stripes, this is Rincon. So this is Rincon sphere here. And where there's just gray, just dark gray, is the city of Escondido. So this the whole of the donut here is just the city and no Rincon. So then where there's overlap between the blue stripes and the dark gray, that is both jurisdictions. So just the white and blue is Escondido, or sorry, just the white and blue is Rincon, just the gray is Escondido, and then you mash up here.
Where's the city limit to this?
That's a little,
So that, I'll just jump in. So the city of Escondido's limits is the dark gray, right? The dark
so
gray.
it's the edge of the dark gray is the edge of the city.
So, okay, the edge of the, okay, I see. Okay.
And
Now,
just
well, that
like
makes sense
that,
if that's where they overlap.
Here's
Okay.
Old Escondido, here's San Pasqual Valley. The white is the unincorporated area with the blue stripes served by Rincon. Again, as Alex said, the dark gray with the blue stripes is the city of Escondido that overlaps with the Rincon boundary. It speaks to that issue about having two entities with overlapping boundaries.
So are different, I'm sorry, are different subdivisions, each one has that, or when somebody has one side of the street, somebody has the other side of the street, how where they're overlapping, does that mean there's dual pipes running? What's that?
There's not necessarily dual pipes, but you have citizens who are part of two districts. And while there are internal divisions in which Escondido will provide water service to a particular portion of its incorporated boundary, but not all of its incorporated boundary, because a good portion of its incorporated boundary is served by Rincon, as an example. The comment from LAFCO, to get down to the meat of the issue, is you have this overlap in which your comments, Commissioner Desmond, speak to the confusion that is created with agencies with common boundaries that overlap, and in this particular case, with water service boundaries that overlap, not necessarily in terms of infrastructure, but in terms of governance authority. Our comment at LAFCO is, hey, this is the kind of thing that the state wants us to look at and offer up some ideas as to possible smoothing and or corrections. We're not presupposing what the corrections will be, but it's something that the legislature wants us to dive into.
And then, I guess, in the crosshatch area, the overlap area, Is it, I don't know if you can have the answer to this or not, I won't hold you to it. Is it like 50/50, City of Escondido and Rincon, 70/30?
By resident numbers, there are roughly 129,000 residents that live within Rincon's service area, and they serve 29,000
Of the whole area,
of
Or
their
of the-
service area.
of their service area, but I guess I was asking of the common, or whatever, the shared area.
The overlap.
The
What's
overlap.
between
You
the
may
city
not
of
know that.
Escondido and Rincon del Diablo? Isn't it about 63%?
Right.
Is who?
They're in the same, both 63% of residents of Escondido are also in the boundary of Rincon. Or do I have
Well,
that
it's not
last one?
residents, it's land area.
Yeah.
Okay, it's land, but isn't it certain meters? I guess it's not just the land, it's the users.
I have a clarifying point, because I've been wrapping my head around this whole puzzle recently, quite often. So there's a difference between service area and sphere of influence. So my understanding is that we're looking at the sphere up here. So as far as, it's not like, that because it's in our sphere of influence, doesn't necessarily mean it's one of our service areas. And so Escondido has a particular service area, and we have a particular service area.
When you say we, you're meaning
Rincon.
Okay.
Sorry. And that's something that I think is part of the recommendations that LAFCO is going to look at, maybe syncing up the sphere of influence with the actual service area more accurately going forward to clean up these boundaries.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, okay,
We have Chris.
I was gonna ask, Chris, you wanna address this? And then if you would fill out a speakership afterwards, I'd appreciate it. Actually, our secretary would appreciate it.
Certainly. Good morning. My name is Chris McKinney. I am the Director of Utilities for the City of Escondido. Unfortunately, this isn't in my opinion, the best map on which to discuss our different service areas. What I can say is that, generally speaking, and I'll invite Clint Bays from Rincon to correct me if I'm wrong. Generally speaking, Rincon's service area, that is the area of the region where they actually serve water to customers, is generally west of Interstate 15. There are some areas in the southwest or southeast of Escondido that are served water by Rincon. If you look at that map, almost the entire dark blue area to the east of Interstate 15 is served water by the City of Escondido, as well as a significant portion of the blue hatched area also to the east of Interstate 15. Significant portions of that are served water by the City of Escondido. So an interesting aspect of the water service arrangement between the city and the Rincon del Diablo district is that there are areas of the county that are within the Rincon district that receive water service from the City of Escondido. And there are areas within the City of Escondido that are served water by the Rincon del Diablo Municipal Water District. So it's a very convoluted might be a strong term, but it can be a very confusing system, and I think, as your staff member pointed out, about 29,000 of the residents in the region are served by Rincon. The rest, the majority, are served by the City of Escondido. So I hope these comments help to further clarify things in the region.
Does anyone have a question of Jeff? Okay, I have one question. Do you have a better map that shows this?
And I don't mean to disparage your staff's map,
That's
because
okay.
I have, too late. Sorry.
There's so much going on, there's only so many hash marks and dots and so forth.
I have many maps that I'd be willing to provide to LAFCO staff, and in your staff's defense, it is an incredibly, as I said earlier, convoluted thing to show. So on any single map, it's very difficult to show and understand. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Okay, any at this time? I will close the public hearing, and I only have one comment. When we go back and do the part two, I noticed looking up there's a number of islands. Are those going to be?
Islands will be a discussion for the City of Escondido, and it certainly also involves the County of San Diego, so there's going to be some coordination.
Thank you.
Okay, is there a motion? Motion is second.
I think I was a second.
You
That was an hour ago.
Well, that's before you ask your question. Okay, thank you. Roll call.
Commissioner Vanderven,
Yes.
Commissioner Jacob,
Aye.
Commissioner Kersey,
Aye.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Aye.
Commissioner Willis,
Aye.
Commissioner Salas,
Aye.
Commissioner Wells,
Yes.
Commissioner Desmond.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Item number 8.
I will take this, but I did just want to compliment Alex. That was his very first municipal service review for San Diego LAFCO, and it wasn't an easy one. So
He
thank you.
gave us the hardest one, the one that was more convoluted than the other.
That's why I'm the boss. So nevertheless, before you, as you mentioned, Chair, we have a proposed memorandum of understanding between San Diego LAFCO and our brethren to the north in Riverside LAFCO. It's an MOU that has been in the works for a few months now. And Commission, it takes aim at some ambiguities in statute, in particular trying to bridge the gap between what the statute contemplates and the actual doing on the ground when it comes to processing multi-county jurisdictional proposals. And in this particular case, there's a need to get some clarification through an MOU between the two LAFCOs, because we are certainly aware we have a couple of special districts up in North County, Fallbrook and Rainbow, who have signaled their intent to go forward with a reorganization proposal to switch wholesale water service providers. And in LAFCO speak, it would involve principally the detachment of these two districts' jurisdictional boundaries from the water authority, okay? And then concurrent annexation into Eastern Municipal Water District. So that's the need for the item, and now the substance of the item that we brought you, and again, it's gone through some twists and turns in the process, but I think we've landed on a spot that is agreeable with most of the subject agencies, is for San Diego LAFCO to assume full control of the reorganization proposal. Specifically, Commission, everything that would need to get approved in the LAFCO statutes for this reorganization to occur would come through this dais and not Riverside LAFCO. And most notably, that would mean, for the first time ever, you would be taking a boundary and sphere action on Eastern Municipal Water District, an entity that operates exclusively as we speak in Riverside County. So, staff believes we've gotten to a good spot based on correspondence and communications with all 4 subject agencies. I know that you have correspondence in your packet, including supplemental documents that range from all 4 subject agencies, and I know that we have representatives from all 4 subject agencies in attendance. And I have a bet they would like to speak to you, Commission, before you take up this item. But Carmen and I are here to speak in details as you see fit. Thank you.
That's the end of your report.
Yes.
Okay, at this, I don't think there was any comments, questions from the commission. Okay. Oh,
One more.
one more. Okay. Hang on. Okay, at this time, I will open the public hearing, and the first speaker is Tom Kennedy, General Manager of, somewhere. No, I've got Rincon on the brain. How about Rainbow?
Morning, Commissioners. I'm Tom Kennedy, General Manager of Rainbow Municipal Water District. Just want to thank you for your time this morning to consider this item. We've been having discussions with staff about this proposal for a number of months, as Keane indicated, and our main reason to support this is to get clarity as to exactly where to file the paperwork on this kind of complicated multi-county process. And I know there's been comments back and forth between all the agencies, and even the Water Authority's legal counsel suggested this exact situation to do it all in San Diego County. So we're in support of the Commission moving forward with the MOU, which will then, I believe, go to the October meeting of Riverside LAFCO as well. It's really just a matter of us getting clarity on where to bring the paperwork, so we don't have to send paperwork up to Riverside and back here. So we're in support.
Okay, Jack Beebe, General Manager for Fallbrook.
Yeah, I'd like to also thank you for your time. So Jack Peavy, General Manager of Fallbrook Public Utility District. We also support the approach that's laid out. Just to be clear here too, so what we're at right now is just getting some guidance in terms of what the application looks like. So my board has directed me to begin to prepare an application. So this item's critical so I can start moving forward on that process. I think you'll hear from others that maybe aren't supportive of this, of all the concerns about it. There's plenty of time within the process to look at those concerns. So all this does is tell me what the application needs to look like. You will then have the application. I'm going to apologize in advance because it's going to be somewhat of a contentious item, I suspect, given the nature of it. So I apologize bringing this to the door of LAFCO. But this is really about, for the community of Fallbrook, which is in San Diego County, what's the best approach. And we have confidence in this commission to be able to evaluate that information and make the determination. But the approval of this at this time is important for us just so we can continue down the road. Thank you.
And we have Nick Canetis,
Well done.
Eastern Municipal Water District.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. My name is Nick Canetis. I'm the Deputy General Manager of the Eastern Municipal Water District. As was mentioned earlier, approximately a year ago, Fallbrook Public Utilities District and Rainbow Municipal Water District approached Eastern, requesting us potentially to consider them annexing into our sphere of influence to acquire wholesale water service. We were happy to consider that, and as such, we reached out to Riverside, LAFCO, to understand what the process would be for that sphere of influence change. I understand along the way, ultimately here we are today where there is consideration to have Riverside, LAFCO, delegate that authority to San Diego LAFCO to process that application. We have no objection to that. We're supportive of the process, and we look forward to working with San Diego LAFCO as they consider and analyze this approach. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Next speaker is Claire Collins, San Diego County Water Authority.
Good morning, Commissioners and Mr. Simons. My name is Claire Collins. I represent the County Water Authority. Thanks so much for working with us on developing this MOU, and we're grateful to have had the opportunity to participate in the review. There was a lot of thoughtful consideration of different alternatives, and we're grateful to have the opportunity to participate. The authority supports the decision to retain local decision-making authority here in San Diego County. And we would like to make one point, which is that the Water Authority is comprised of 24 separate member agencies. And the potential reorganization of 2 of those agencies into a separate district will have implications for the remaining 22 members of the authority. Consistent with the Commission's local policies, we would be happy to provide any information sought in connection with this process. But we also urge the Commission to ensure that all of the affected other 22 agencies are included in this process in order to ensure that there is a fair process that evaluates those impacts, not just on the authority as a whole, but on the member agencies individually. Again, we thank you for your and the staff's consideration of these concerns, and we support the Commission's approval of the MOU.
Thank you. Are there any comments, questions? No.
How will this affect, I'm sorry.
You're almost out of the way.
You may not know this yet, but how will this affect the rates for the other 22 members, which is most of the members we represent? I assume it's going to make it go up, not down.
That may be a fair assumption. Of course, the entire review, hopefully the application to be submitted by Rainbow and Fallbrook would propose some of the guardrails, I would say, on that process. And then, of course, I would assume that the LAFCO process would include an in-depth review that would include both the impacts on San Diego County Water Authority members, as well as what would happen with Eastern Municipal Water District. So there are impacts, again, in both counties, as Mr. Simons mentioned. So we would hope, of course, that the entirety of the sphere of influence, 2 sphere of influence applications, plus the detachment and annexation, would include the analysis of that. And of course, the authority is interested in ensuring that there is rate neutrality throughout this process.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes.
As as we're putting this together, obviously, the whole point of this is to determine the responsibilities and approvals. Ultimately, does this result in a public vote at some point? Or is that going to be addressed in the MOU, or in the report that's filed as part of the MOU?
So to play this process out, Commissioner Kersey, if the proposal is filed and this commission makes a number of approvals to that end, ultimately it would be subject in our reading of the statutes to a vote of the constituents in the affected area, and the affected territory would be the Fallbrook community and the Rainbow community.
But I think all of the districts, all of those agencies within the County Water Authority are already well aware of this proposal.
Madam Chair, we're not at that point, but I could argue that the affected areas, the entire County Water Authority area and all those other 22 agencies, they're all going to be affected. So maybe that's something we talk about. I don't know what's in the law, but that's a discussion that we need to have at proper time.
Well, too, if you remember, most agencies have a detachment fee and an annexation fee. The detachment fee is predicated upon the capital improvements. So, I don't know. I think the Water Authority is going to have to be forthcoming with a lot of, financial information, where, as to where your assets are and the financials for all the bonds that you have, all of your bonds and indebtedness. That's got to be spread out amongst everyone, and then how is it spread out? You've got a city of San Diego and a special district of Rincon, two different sizes. How are they proportionally, paying their fair share? So there's going to be a lot of, I think our staff's going to have a lot of questions for the Water Authority, that probably you're the only one who can provide that information.
Indeed, and we are more than happy to provide all of that. We have begun some of that analysis in preparation, given the information we've received from Rainbow and from Fallbrook. Of course, we're going to participate in every way possible to provide the most current and complete information. And I would say, if I may, in response to the prior comments, I think there are some additional discussions to be had with respect to, and of course it's further down the line, but with respect to what the contours of any vote would look like in terms of the affected areas, as well as the standards that would be applied. So we're happy to, again, work with your staff and return to discuss those issues with the Commission. And I have one small edit to the MOU, if I may pass it to Council, or...
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you.
Council, did you have a comment?
No, I was just going to say all of this will come up later, and that really we're here for the MOU.
Now, first of all, it's nice to see Rainbow and FUD getting along so well together. A few years ago, that wasn't the case. So, yeah, have we ever processed, question for Keene, have we ever processed the multi-county district before?
I do not believe so, Robert. Have we done a multi-county proposal?
Okay, so does this open the door to other potential multi-county districts?
It acknowledges the door is there. It does not necessarily open.
Okay, just a point of history. Years ago when I was with North County Fire, we also saw the advantages of having a multi-county district. And in annexation, we were looking at border right to Riverside County. So we put that in the proposal. Well, two of the supervisors then, who are long gone now, gave me schooling on the fact that if we wanted the annexation, which brought in about $400,000 for the district, that they were not best with being multi-county. So I'm glad that we're looking at multi-county. I'm not sure how this proposal will play out, but it sounds like a pretty aggressive approach to trying to save the ratepayers some money with it. Thank you.
Okay, we have two more speakers, and next one up is Jean Blumenfeld, who's the General Counsel for Otay Water District.
Good morning, Commissioners and Mr. Simons. My name is Jeannie Blumenfeld. I'm General Counsel for the Otay Water District. And I just want to draw your attention to a couple of items that the Otay Water District is concerned about. The Otay Water District is supportive of the memorandum that is under consideration today. But on another issues, the LAFCO policy L107 requires a proposal applicant to meet with affected agencies or their representatives at the earliest possible stage and prior to the submission of a proposal requesting LAFCO consideration of a change of organization or reorganization. And this is for the purpose of identifying or attempting to resolve any issues associated with the proposed jurisdictional changes. There are many important issues that are associated with Rainbow and Fallbrook's proposed detachment from the County Water Authority and their annexation to Easton. The impacts of the proposed reorganization will be felt by the County Water Authority, the San Diego County, and all the 22 remaining member agencies of the County Water Authority. Neither Fallbrook nor Easton have discussed their proposed actions with the County Water Authority member agencies. Otay, as one of the county's water authority's member agencies, is particularly concerned about the financial ramifications of the proposed reorganization and the effect that they will have on its ratepayers. Rate neutrality is one of the primary concerns. Otay and the remaining agencies have not conferred authority on the San Diego County Water Authority to discuss the issues associated with the detachment on their behalf. Accordingly, Otay is urging the LAFCO to ensure that Rainbow and Fallbrook engage in meaningful dialogue regarding its proposed reorganization with the County Water Authority and its 22 member agencies before they initiate proceedings to detach from the County Water Authority and annex to Easton. I have a letter from the Otay Water Authority that I would like to put into the record, and I will hand to you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My last speaker slip is Rodney Smith.
Good morning. My name's Rodney Smith, 35679 Verano Lane, Fallbrook, 92028. I'm president of Straticon Inc., a strategic planning and economic consulting firm specializing in water resources. I've represented Imperial Irrigation District in the transfer of conserved water to the Water Authority. Other clients include the Water Authority, Metropolitan Water District on Bay Delta matters in the 80s, and a whole portfolio of private public sector clients on water issues, which include real estate developers seeking reliable water supplies to secure service for their developments. I speak to you today as a new Fallbrook resident, so I'm someone who will be impacted directly by this decision. As a property owner, I want to share with you that the reliability of water service will be a key driver of real estate values. Capital markets have recognized that water service is foundational to the vitality of the local economy and real estate development. My firm has participated in transactions among real estate developers where a reliable water supply is priced at twice the price San Diego pays for Imperial Water. I've been a student of Metropolitan and the Colorado River for decades. Capital markets are aware of Metropolitan's water rate history. Their rates and charges increased significantly faster than inflation since the 1960s, when I was in high school. The experience over the last 10 years is no different. Metropolitan's water supply portfolio has deteriorated since 2003. Metropolitan's Colorado River water supplies have fallen by more than 400,000 acre-feet a year, despite their agreements for conserved water within Carroll and Palo Verde Irrigation District. We know the yield of the state water project is in free fall for over a decade. Governor Newsom recently pulled the plug on the water fix after years of investigation, hundreds of millions of dollars spent on project development. The Newsom administration, of course, is aware of the need for a successor project as water wants wait the next venture. When will the water be available? Water fix initially promised is going to be available in 2025, around 2012. And right before it got taken to the pound by Governor Newsom, they said, well, we stretched it out to 2035. When will the next water project from California actually deliver water? What does Metropolitan's deteriorating water portfolio look like in the interim? What will happen over the next 2 decades? Based on its track record, Metropolitan rates will double in inflation-adjusted dollars without any new reliable long-term service. So as you move forward, responsible decision-making must be based on a strong analytical and factual foundation. By leaving the authority, Fallbrook and Rainbow would be trading senior water rights for junior water rights. Really? That's unprecedented in my experience. It's hard for me to understand how a provider of municipal service wants to make that trade.
Mr. Smith, could you
Yeah.
kind of wrap up?
Sure.
Thank you.
So, at a minimum, I think you have to understand that the decisions by LAFCO and other local agencies will have an impact, I think, on how the real estate industries will be looking at the disclosures, and this process has begun. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And I have a written, for the record?
You want to give it to the
Sure.
staff member?
Madam Chair, are we through public comment?
Yes, we are. At this time, I'll close the public hearing. Comment and questions from the commission?
Go ahead, Jim.
Sure, okay, I guess this is more for Keem. I'm still a new person here, I'm gonna keep claiming that for a little while, but I'm still trying to figure out our role in all of this. And I'm reading a September 11th letter that you had sent back to, and it's Lewis, Brisbus, Bisgard, and Smith, and they are the attorneys for who?
Water.
For the Water Authority, okay. So in here, in page 2 here, it says, your response is that they're requesting that the San Diego LAFCO take the lead to oversee the preparation, which I'm fine with. But they also ask that we forensically analyze the impacts of the boundary changes on the Water Authority and its 22 agencies. And I won't read all this, but it says, and then you also said, we understand the underlying intent of these requests is to ensure the proposal is fully vetted with a focus on its financial impacts for all affected agencies with inputs from stakeholders. Towards this end, specific to the potential financial impacts to the Water Authority as provided in the letter, San Diego LAFCO, us, acknowledges that this is a pertinent consideration and intends to appropriately evaluate it in the analysis of the boundary changes, assuming the proposal comes forward. So I guess, to be honest with you, I would rather see the Water Authority and Rainbow and Fallbrook work out something first as far as money goes, and then bring it to us. And their boards vote out and approve that before it comes to us, as opposed to us trying to vet and figure all of that out ourselves. I don't know if we can make that a condition or not, because the fight is really, I guess, more between the authority and the 2 districts wanting to leave. And it really shouldn't be up to us, because quite frankly, I don't have the expertise to figure all that out. And so I'm assuming you do, and then you bring us recommendations, but I don't see us as, we're more of whether they meet all the requirements of a boundary change, as opposed to is somebody being made financially whole or not. That, I think, I would rather see those entities make that effort before we consider the change.
You want to address that comment?
Staff shares your sentiment, Commissioner Desmond, and we have articulated both to the Water Authority and the other agencies, principally Rainbow and Fallbrook, that ideally they come to terms on this proposal, and then the Commission's role then is to assess independently if those terms make sense. Essentially what has been, I think, appropriately referred to as a absence of the parties coming to an agreement, the statute clearly says you, commission, will determine those terms as part of your overall oversight of boundary lines. So again, I think the sentiment is clear. We would like the affected agencies to present their agreed upon terms for divorce. In absence of that, you will be the divorce judge and you will decide the terms.
Well, can we condition it that they come to us with terms, and if they don't, then it doesn't go forward?
You can certainly hold that thought when the item comes to you in deciding whether you want to take action.
Legally, is that something we can do?
I think what we're talking about now is the MOU, we might be getting a little.
I know, I am, but well, this was part of the package.
Right, exactly, and all of this will vet it out once there's an application, but what's been agendized is the MOU.
Okay. I would just like the audience to know is the intention of this member that you come forward before, with an agreement before we try to hash it out, because you're not going to like it once we hash it out.
Well, and two, if they go ahead and submit an application, they are paying them the application fees, which we haven't been getting with all the paperwork has been generated. So it has a benefit.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Of course, the ideal would be that everybody comes together with an agreement. I do not believe that's going to happen in this case. And we don't have an application before us. We have an MOU before us today, and that's what we're going to take action on. And it's a good thing, at least we start with an agreement on the MOU. However, there are 25 agencies that are involved here. We've got 24 water districts, and then we have the County Fire Authority. And it's not just 2 water districts, it's all 25 entities that have a potential of being affected here. And comments such as rate neutrality is very, very important. And also an independent financial analysis of what this does. And LAFCO's responsibility, once an application is filed, I suspect that's going to happen in this case. On the prior item, that was convoluted. I don't think, we ain't seen anything yet, just wait. But I'll put a motion on the floor that we support the MOU that's before us, and also to direct staff to work with the other 22 water districts and County Water Authority, and to do a thorough independent financial analysis of not only what this means to the 2 districts, Fallbrook and Rainbow, but the other 22 water districts and the County Water Authority.
I'll second. Have a motion and a second. Discussion? There none? Roll call.
Commissioner Vanderlyn,
Yes.
Commissioner Jacobs,
Aye.
Commissioner Kersey,
Aye.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Aye.
Commissioner Willis,
Aye.
Commissioner Salas,
Aye.
Commissioner Wells,
Yes.
Commissioner Desmond.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
And just, Chair, just to follow up on Ms. Collins' request, there was a technical edit to the MOU. It is not substantive. We will incorporate that into the change. Thank you, Ms. Collins. We forgot to put memorandum of understanding, which is in of itself a key item, but we'll get it done now.
Thank you. Moving on along, item 8C is the proposed amendment to employment agreement for executive officer.
Eight D.
I missed one?
But I appreciate your enthusiasm.
I really wanted to skip that. Okay.
I will be quick. So this is a
Proposed new due structure.
this is a check-in for the commission with respect to the World of Cal LAFCO and their efforts to ready their own ship and get out of red and get back into black. And that means for this commission, as well as the other 57 member agencies of Cal LAFCO, we are all going to be asked to consider a rather substantial change in membership dues, as well as a change in the bylaws that determine how rates are structured at Cal LAFCO. The substantive effect will this commission is that we're looking at a 19% increase in your annual dues going into the next fiscal year. Now, the reason we are bringing this to you for discussion and feedback only is because there's a lot of history with San Diego, LAFCO, and CalAFCO on this particular topic. Commissioners McKenzie and Vanderlyn can speak to that history. But we're looking for feedback as you see fit on two items. One is the board proposal itself. Are you good with what the CalAFCO board has come up with? And perhaps more broadly, because this item has generated a lot of infighting and consternation within CalAFCO, it is likely, if not probable, that an alternative motion will be made on the floor where an effort will be made to redirect the increases more to San Diego and LA LAFCO as the biggest contributors to CalAFCO. So this is a check-in, feedback as you see fit, but I do want to refer to Commissioners McKenzie and Vanderlyn their roles on CalAFCO.
Now, let me start here. As a board member on CalAFCO, this has been a issue that's been going around for the 3 years that I've been on the board. A subcommittee was formed, about 6 or 8 members. They worked on it for over a year, coming up with various formulas, combinations, permutations, etc., trying to figure out what is equitable. We have decided that equitable will never be met, so now we're looking at parity. Mainly because you have Alpine that has 1,000 residents and their budget is minuscule. You have San Diego, we've got about 3 million people, our budget's a couple million. You have Orange County and LA, they have millions of people. So the thrust of the population is in the south, and the lessers are towards the north. So they came up with a formula, and please don't ask me to explain it because I'm really not sure how they came up with it, but they started out with a base number. Everybody should be able to pay $1,000. They came up with that, and then they took the population per county and multiplied that by a percentage to come up with then figures. And the approximation within the group is that I know EO from LA is very vocal in that he really doesn't use a lot of services that CalAFCO has. He's big enough, he's got a big enough staff, he doesn't need CalAFCO per se. But it's just like CSAT or the League or the California Special District Association or any of these associations that are driven by membership. I know talking with CSAT, they have no clue how they came up with that bottom number. And over the years, they've just come up with a formula to increase it. But no one knows how they came up with that floor. So the question is, one, there's rumblings that, gee, if my dues go up, we're going to pull out of CalAFCO. At this point in time, all of the counties belong to CalAFCO. It's a benefit to be able to go, to your legislators and say, hey, I represent all of the LAFCOs in the state of California, rather than, well, how many do you represent? Oh, about half, 3/4. So it gives credibility when our staff and our lobbyists are, lobbying the various legislators. So it's going to, like I said, it's going to be very, as he said too, it's going to be very contentious. And is San Diego willing to, put forth money?
Move to approve.
Have a motion to approve?
Second.
And a second from Commissioner Wells?
Well, not to break up the momentum here, but we're just looking for discussion feedback, but I take the approve is to support the board proposal and perhaps perhaps give discretion to our delegates at the meeting if something of an alternative nature comes up?
I would say that the increase is a maximum, not to exceed, go lower. I mean, I believe there is value. How much value, I'm not sure, but to me, that's the basic question. Is it worth the money? Are we getting enough value out of it to warrant spending the money? Sounds like from what Joe said, we are, and if we are, fine. Negotiate it down.
10 grand. It's always good to get input from your peers, and you learn from each other, and it's a value that it's fun to do.
I was just wondering how they came up with the 19%.
I'm sorry, but that's part of the formula that they use. I got lost in all of the mathematics of it, sorry. Yes.
Do you need discretionary authority to spend more or less, or as Dan Jacobs said, take that as a number, go down, or do you need to possibly go over that?
Well, I think within our budget, we have discretion to pay our membership fees, right? So we pay American Planning Association all sorts of membership dues. But I think that the real input, and I think we're hearing it, is you're good with what the board proposal is, but I do think this is of value to us and to values to members Vanderlyn and McKenzie. There's a level to our interest to subsidize Cal AFCO. And admittedly, I share my counterparts' thoughts in LA that Cal AFCO's good, but we would be fine without it. The services, for the most part, support rural and suburban LAFCOs, which is fine, but the problem is when we ask for proposals to come forward to Cal AFCO on legislative items, we often get outvoiced by the smaller and suburban LAFCOs. So there's a disconnect between, they're asking us to pay more money, but we're not getting more say into the process of the output. So I like the idea of telling the board or Cal AFCO that the commission is clear, this is our level, we're not going any further than this.
Andy, I'm sorry, Mark.
Did they say how long they've been running a structural deficit and what caused it?
They're budgeting. They're budgeting.
But I mean, is it sudden spike in pension costs? I mean, is there anything specific that triggered this?
Well, if I could add, there's a decision at the Cal AFCO board level to decide not to solicit sponsorships or budget conference revenues as they have in the past. That's their decision, but their end result is not only are they already in the red, they've increased the red because they don't want to do sponsorships at Cal AFCO conferences. That's a board decision.
And I mean, as the former vice president of the League of Cities, I can tell you that that's a mistake. I mean, there's a lot of money out there that you can do it in a way that doesn't negatively impact whatever their concerns are, keep it separated, and still create a thriving organization economically that does not run a structural deficit.
And that's been my comment, because they aren't budgeting it, and I think they are budgeting like 10%, and minuscule dollars, which doesn't make up for that deficit. But I looked at the budget, and this committee looked at the budget, and there's really not a whole lot of fat on there to be able to be cut. So it's a question of, one, increasing your conferences. I mean, that's your moneymaker. But as a dues organization, you have to budget what you know is coming in. And what you know is coming in is only the dues. So they're really, Cal AFCO is between a rock and a hard place. And I'll defer to Commissioner Vanderlyn to
Just a brief history. Some years ago, the 5 largest agencies in LAFCO, which is now the Southern Region, said we were going to pull out of LAFCO, represent about 75% of the revenue that Cal AFCO works on. And so there was a whole reorganization that took place at that time. The dues issue has always followed that. It's never been, this is probably about the 5th or 6th iteration of what the due structure could look like in terms of terminology as well as cost. It is a transfer, and it really is a step have been proposed, because they made their decisions about other outside wetlands. From the standpoint of, could we live without being in CalLAFCO, I think the answer is yes. There'd be some loss to us, but we have a very strong LAFCO, as the other agencies in the southern region do as well. So there's also a push now on the other side, because if their dues go up, the smaller LAFCOs, that they're going to pay more. So it's going to be an interesting discussion at the conference, including some targeting on staff in terms of why did you take out conferences and sponsorships from conference revenue. So thank you for your input and your trust. Joe and I will take a look at what's there. I'll look to Keene as well. He didn't say much, but he's been involved in the whole process with the other executive officers in our region who are very outspoken when it comes to LAFCO. And they have members on CalLAFCO as well. So in fact, one of the proposals that had a better feel for it than what we're seeing now was developed by one of the commissioners from Los Angeles County. He's a long time, he's probably one of the longest serving CalLAFCO people around. So anyway, we may come back to you with the news at the next meeting that there's no longer a CalLAFCO, but we'll report back and take into consideration in terms of asking specific questions related to how can the budget be better facilitated than it is right now to negate or at least reduce the cost increases, and also some way to lay off the increased dues fees to other than the largest agencies which take much of the hit. Thank you.
And I think part of the problem is that dues for the smaller agencies have been way too low. They're paying $700. Our dues, if you look on page 303, I gotta get over here to it. It is, this year it's $8,900, and it's proposed to go up to $10,600. So it's just the thing that smaller agencies are paying less.
And they don't have enough, my position is they don't have enough breakouts.
Call for the question. We're talking about $1,600. And you fight it out at the conference.
Well, it's not even, it's just a discussion, we don't even vote on this, right?
So the direction is.
Good luck.
He's for voting. Have fun.
Yeah, have good luck.
Look forward to reporting back.
Yes. All right, fine.
We don't want to see you in the future, you.
Yes, it was.
Okay. Now we're on item number 8C, proposed amendments to employment agreement for executive officer.
Madam Chair, yes, you may vote on the amendment here, or session to discuss particulars.
I would move approval.
I was gonna say, we had pretty thorough discussion last time, so we have a motion?
Second. Yes.
Second?
I'm sorry, we have 8C? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Vanderman,
Yes.
Commissioner Jacob. Aye. Commissioner Kersey.
Aye.
Commissioner McKenzie.
Aye.
Commissioner Willis.
Aye.
Commissioner Salas.
Aye.
Commissioner Wells.
Yes.
Commissioner Desmond.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Item number 9, executive officer report.
Very quickly, some of you may have noticed we lost about a fourth of our room here. So there's an issue for us going forward about how to accommodate audience. And as Rick Pitino would say, that portion of the room is not coming back anytime soon. So
Where did it go?
it's in, I guess, whatever room is next door. So here's the question for the commission that we are going to work on behind the scenes. We love keeping our Monday at 9 o'clock every month meeting, but in order to accommodate any item of substance that's going to draw people, we don't have the ability necessarily to accommodate them now. So we're going to work behind the scenes, figure out if there's another location in this building that we can meet at 9 o'clock every Monday on as we go forward. But it's something just to be on your radar.
What about the building, the county sheriff operations? They've got a large.
We will look at all options, but the issue here for us is, we just saw it briefly here, when the water authority item actually was We would be in favor.
Yeah.
So that's my comment, that's my view.
Thank you. Any comments from the commissioners? Sir, here? Jerry, you have any comments? Mark? Jerry? Jim?
Just
Looking forward to Cal after the conference coming up.
Andy?
Just a comment, praise for our staff and all the hard work you put into the package, it's great. And Keen, thank you for your cliff notes as well.
Oh, yeah.
Helps from the reading both the encyclopedia.
Commissioner Jake, do you have any comments? No? Moving on along. At this time, we'll go into closed session with conference with legal counsel